Congressman Adam Smith. He's the ranking member of the Armed Services Committee. Congressman, it's good to have you back on the show. We're just going to invite you into the conversation that we were just having there. I hope you were able to hear some of it. But how do you view the current state of play, given what you may know about the deal announced tonight? Do you think that we are better off on a single metric? Are we better today, safer today, than we were back in February?
No, I mean, I substantially agree with pretty much everything that Ayman said in your first segment there. I mean, the two big initial reactions are, one, I really hope this sticks, because stopping this war is so important. I mean, the devastation it's caused, certainly throughout the Middle East, but across the world economically, it has expanded in all the ways that Ayman described. You have Iran attacking, half dozen or more different countries in the Middle East. The war between Israel and Lebanon has exploded. Israel's actions in the West Bank continue apace. We have a lot of violence and conflict. If this can be a step towards calming that down and moving us towards peace, then I'm very excited about it. But second, it makes it very clear that this war was just a colossal mistake. No, we are not any better off. I think Ayman summed it up quite well. I mean, the Strait of Hormuz wasn't on the table. The Arab neighbors had not been attacked by Iran. Now they have. And basically, we're sort of back where we were when we started. No clear nuclear deal. And all we've done is reopened a strait that, well, sorry, we haven't done this yet. If this plays out, which is still an open question, even if it plays out, all we've done is reopen a strait that was open in the first place. So, and I want to get at one quick thing. The core problem here with Netanyahu and Trump is they seem to think that they can vanquish all of their enemies, that whatever conflict they face, if they simply apply enough force, they will break Hezbollah, they will break Hamas, they will break Iran, and then we'll get everything we want. That is just not going to happen. This is a situation that's going to have to be managed. We cannot kill our way out of it. And I still don't fundamentally think that either President Trump or Prime Minister Netanyahu understand that. We have to find partners for peace, not just enemies that we want to kill.
Congressman, let's play a clip of President Barack Obama earlier on ABC and what he had to say about this deal and Iran.
It is doubtful that any agreement that arises is going to be significantly different or a significant improvement from the deal that we had. I'm hopeful that bombing stops and ordinary people are no longer suffering as a consequence of the war.
Congressman, so you kind of have the conundrum that Democrats are in politically. The good thing for the world is that this deal is reached and that the war is contained, and hopefully we can go back to where we were before. But it didn't accomplish anything except, putting us in this worse position and showing us the capabilities that Iran has with drone warfare. And because it's Trump, though, Republicans are probably going to be okay with giving Iran some money.
They're going to say this is the most incredible accomplishment the world has ever seen. And they'll just basically flush the flat facts down the toilet and just say what they ever want to do. And I hope that we hold them to the facts on this. And this was always the problem with Iran. I remember back, and I was a strong supporter of the JCPOA, and a lot of people were critical of it. Well, it doesn't do anything about their ballistic missile program, doesn't do anything about their support for terrorist proxies. There was nothing on the table that was going to address those issues. Iran is a nation of 93 million people with a hardcore Islamic regime that is dug in and not something that you can simply remove, which means you're going to have to deal with them. And President Obama was the first president to actually accept that reality. I think Fareed Zakaria wrote a piece a couple weeks ago about how the fundamental conflict with U.S. and Iran is we were always on the one hand saying, we'd be better off if they were gone. On the other hand, we were trying to deal with them, and you really can't do both. Okay, you can't be trying to completely remove a regime and at the same time work with them. And President Obama accepted the fact that they were a fact of life, not one that we're happy about. I know, 47 years worth of conflict. They have supported Hezbollah and Hamas. They are dutifully trying to eliminate the state of Israel. All of that. We don't have a plan on the table to eliminate them, so we better come up with a plan to deter them and deal with them. And sadly, on February 27th, we were as close as we've ever been. Okay, and part of this is you do have to fight sometimes. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I understand that Israel had to make sure that they contained that threat, but they had done that as of February 27th. Iran was in the weakest position they had been in. We were in a position to negotiate a decent deal, and instead Netanyahu and Trump decided, no, I think we can do this one quick strike and they'll be gone. And the depths of the stupidity in reaching that conclusion just cannot be adequately plumbed.
Congressman, let me ask you about that situation, the relationship between America and Israel right now, because there is the concern that Israel could play spoiler to this. From what we understand, and certainly from what I've learned about this deal, the Iranians want to include Lebanon in that agreement. Donald Trump has hinted that he will incorporate Lebanon to the extent that he can, but he's also called reporters today, or at least he spoke to reporters today, which he often does whenever he wants to try to tout an achievement and a success. And he's expressed his frustrations with Benjamin Netanyahu about the strike in southern Beirut today. Are you concerned that the Prime Minister of Israel could play spoiler to this and try to engulf Lebanon in this war, so much so that Iran feels the need or compelled to respond?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's Netanyahu, it's the extremists that he put into his cabinet. To have Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in that cabinet, hell-bent on endless war throughout the region, is a major impediment to peace. And again, Hezbollah weakened as they had been, gosh, in decades. And the Lebanese government anxious to try to work for an alternative to having Hezbollah, having the amount of power they do. And this was an opportunity for the Israeli government to work with the Lebanese government, with our support, with the Lebanese armed forces, not to eliminate Hezbollah. The idea that you're going to somehow be able to completely disarm them and eliminate them has always been a fantasy, but you can weaken them, but you can only weaken them if you build up the alternative. And the alternative is the Lebanese government, the Lebanese people, the Lebanese armed forces who don't like Hezbollah. But Israel's going to have to accept some risk. Okay, Hezbollah's not going away if they're going to get to peace. Otherwise, they're looking at an endless war and an endless conflict because Hezbollah and other forces, they just keep rebuilding and keep attacking Israel in different ways. So I'm very worried about it. I think President Trump better be strong and say, we need a ceasefire in Lebanon, too.
Congressman, did you get the chance to listen to UN Ambassador Mike Walls earlier? I ask because some of what he spelled out in his interview earlier today, it sounded a bit like a pipe dream. I mean, as Eamon was saying earlier tonight, this idea that the work actually really begins now, because this is where the details become clear. All these challenges will have to be actually worked out across some kind of table. He was sort of confidently projecting, for example, that Iran is ready to give up support of its proxies. And that fact alone just doesn't seem believable to anyone who has been.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, look, and again, to come back to my central point, which I made longer than I would have liked, that Trump still imagines that somehow he's just going to completely smash Iran. They're not going to be able to do anything. And that's what undermined the JCPOA, was the notion that, they made the perfect the enemy of the good. Iran's going to be a problem. I understand that. But we need to figure out a way to deter them. And I think this is what Trump has been saying for 2 months. We have a deal, right? How many times has he said that? But he's gone beyond saying we have a deal. He said Iran has agreed to everything. They're going to open up the strait. They're going to get rid of their nuclear weapons. They're going to stop supporting proxies. You're right. It is sort of like a wish fulfillment strategy, where if they say it out loud, that's going to make it so. It's not going to happen. We are going to have to work together with partners in the region to deter the bad behavior of Iran. We are not going to be able to destroy it militarily. Now, I think we got enough partners, we got enough capabilities that we can deter it and we can contain that risk. But as long as Mike Walls and others continue to fantasize that somehow we're going to apply enough force to eliminate the Iranian threat, this peace agreement is going to be on very fragile ground.
Yeah, and to your point, Congressman, the oil, Brent prices, future prices seem to be reacting to the news coming out of Iran. They're down almost 4% to $81 per barrel, which I guess is a big sign that the markets are welcoming the news coming out of the region this evening. Congressman Adam Smith, it's always a pleasure to have you on. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue more with our breaking news coverage out of Iran.